How many pumps does a gas station need? 5? 10? 15? How about 120? Welcome to the largest gas station in the world. This Buc-ees is over 15 acres. The convenience store alone is over 75,000 square feet. You can fit 21 standard convenience stores inside. How is it profitable for a company to spend $40 million building these to sell like gas and junk food? Buc-ees has been able to turn this almost transactional moment in a road trip into a destination, almost a mandatory, intentional destination for travelers. So what is Buc-ees' secret? How did they reach this cult-like status? So much so that towns are even paying them and changing laws so that they move in. Like, it's hard to understand the cult of Buc-ees if you've never been to one. But as crazy as it sounds, I'm flying all the way to Texas to see a gas station. But this isn't my first Buc-ees rodeo. I actually discovered Buc-ees last year, came to Austin with my family to see the solar eclipse. So the day of the eclipse, we wake up and Austin is completely overcast. There's no chance of seeing the sun. So we hop in the car, we start driving north towards Dallas, which seemed like the best shot to catch the eclipse. And then you start seeing these billboards on the road. The eclipse is starting in an hour. We're somewhere around Temple, Texas, still driving under clouds, and my daughter needs a bathroom break. Buc-ees, next exit, of course, let's do it. But nothing beats walking into the convenience store for the first time, because it just makes no sense. It's vast enough so that you can't see the other end. Like, it's like a Walmart, but it's not a supermarket. There's just everything that you would expect in a gas station convenience store, but way, way, way bigger, like almost absurdly big. Candy, souvenirs, soda, curiosities, and of course what we needed, bathrooms. This Buc-ees is crowded today, and the restrooms are still pristine, but I'll show you later when there's fewer people. I also bought this t-shirt that I wore for our video on why America doesn't like to build tornado-proof homes. I was kind of worried if I was just being tacky. The comments kind of confirmed that there's some real love for Buc-ees. Also, we did make it to the eclipse in the end, by the way. But back to this trip. So I landed in Houston, and I'm making my way up to Luling, Texas. But there's a historic stop I need to make first, and that being the very first Buc-ees that ever existed. That's in Lake Jackson, Texas. Also, honestly, who uses maps anymore?
One possibility is Buc-ees on Oyster Creek Drive in Clute, about a half mile to your south.
And this is where it all started. The first Buc-ees, still standing in Lake Jackson, Texas. The founder, Arch Aplin III, established this location in 1982, and compared to the other Buc-ees, this one is like tiny. Now, Lake Jackson is a small town about an hour south of Houston. Arch found this plot of land next to the intersection and built just a normal-sized gas station and a convenience store. Now, the first Buc-ees was only slightly bigger than your average gas station, but he did go the extra mile with decorations. He put on brass ceiling fans and rough cedar in the upper parts of the wall. There was no logo on opening day, but he got it soon after, a beaver based on his own childhood nickname. Small clarification, some sources will disagree with this, but according to the actual newspaper print that's framed on the wall of this OG Buc-ees, the mascot is a beaver after Arch's high school nickname, but the name Buc-ees is after the high school team, the Buccaneers. Whatever made this gas station different, it was working. And so Arch partnered with Don Wazek, another convenience store owner, to open a second store. Now, according to Texas Monthly, 10 years later, we already had like 20 still regular-sized gas station Buc-ees, mostly around Brazoria County. But a big change was coming in 2003. By the way, Don and Beaver's expansion was funded by their own capital and some good old bank financing, but to this day, they still own the company outright, 50-50 split, no external investors. But what if instead of a small town gas station, they decided to dream a little bigger? Something along the lines of a travel center, a mega gas station built along a major highway. And Buc-ees didn't invent the road trip stop by any means. You had stuff like south of the border along I-95 or Iowa 80, which was supposed to be the world's largest truck stop. But Buc-ees is not a truck stop. As a matter of fact, Buc-ees doesn't allow 18-wheelers inside, much to the dislike of truckers. The idea is that Buc-ees is a pit stop for road trippers, for families, along interstate highways, and they chose Luling, Texas for their first and now largest location, which is where we're headed. Now, that location didn't start as a huge store. It was only 9,000 feet back then, but it had some of the Buc-ee's characteristics that we now know. So that larger Luling, Texas location was the first one to introduce Buc-ee's merch and beaver nuggets, which I've never had. Oh wow, I actually had never had these. They're way better than I expected. Sorry, but still, that doesn't explain why America is so obsessed with these gas stations, or why towns are literally paying them to set up shop. I think they're like 2,000 calories in this bag, so I need to get this out of the way. Well, after the first location succeeded, the Buc-ee's expansion exploded. As of filming this video, there are 58 locations with many more on the way. Now, the economics of gas stations are bizarre because gas stations don't necessarily make money on gas. I'm gonna get to this in a sec. It's like airlines not making money on economy seats, or all-you-can-eat buffets only making about $1 of profit per customer. And I'm sourcing all that from the Hustle team's fantastic Hustlenomics report, which is the small guide to the surprising economics behind your everyday business. Each one of them comes with a quick background and a breakdown of the economics, and a scoop if you want to level up on that industry knowledge. I'm going to drop it below, or you can just scan this QR code. The Tennessee location took the crown as the biggest Buc-ee's for a few years, but after an expansion last year, the title is now back in Luling, Texas, the spot that started this whole trip. And so this Buc-ee's regained the title as the largest Buc-ee's in the world, which is kind of part of their strategy, but I'll get to that in a sec. Now, on my way here, I have a small bladder, so I had to stop a couple times at a restroom, and that kind of gives you a clue to Buc-ee's first crucial strategy, because finding a decent bathroom to stop by on a road trip can be a shitty experience, and sometimes literally a shitty experience. Now, Buc-ee's bathrooms are like the pearl inside the store. Dozens of stalls, 18 in this one, at least in the men's room, I counted. 24/7 custodians. They have this technology called Tush Light that lights up green when a stall is empty so that you don't have to awkwardly knock on anyone. They won the 2012 award for America's Best Restroom, which is very much a thing. And even 10, 12 years later, restrooms are still a big part of Buc-ee's business because it's not just about the cleanliness, it's the location.
Texas has 79,000 miles of highway, so when the billboard says you can hold it, people really do.
I started my morning from Houston with a thermos of coffee, wait and hold it until I got to Buc-ee's.
We saw the sign here for 44 miles and waited.
The average convenience store stop, according to the National Association of Convenience Stores, is 3.5 minutes. But there is no such thing as a quick stop at Buc-ee's. You either take the long route through the side entrance and the endless souvenir section, or you take the front entrance, which is shorter, but still makes you walk right next to the brisket. Anyway, that just means there's no way around the barbecue stations. Now this is pretty decent brisket. Fantastic brisket for a gas station. Nowhere near as good as proper Texas brisket. Now I've been to my fair share of Buc-ee's ever since that first trip. Every single one I've been to follows that exact same layout. There's a front entrance and a side entrance. And both of them force you to walk by the barbecue station to get to the bathrooms. Like, this is actually the first Buc-ee's that I think follows a slightly different layout where there's a third side entrance on the other side of the store. But you still have to go to the barbecue station to get to the bathroom. Like, I don't know if this is the case for every single Buc-ee's, but let me know in the comments if you've been to a different layout. But you can kind of start to see the playbook here. Identify this pattern, this opportunity in road trips, build this fantastic monetizable experience around it. It's not that different from supermarkets putting milk at the back of the store. So what's the next piece? How else can you improve on the existing gas station experience? You'll definitely never have to wait in line at a Buc-ee's. But how about making gas cheaper than anywhere else? As in getting you in trouble cheaper than anywhere else. Now, starting a gas station just to sell gas is not the smartest business move. According to the NCAS, the average markup on gas is 35 to 40 cents. Only a third of that ends up as profit, and that's before taxes. So the real business is always the convenience store, because in a usual gas station, 55% of customers will go inside the store. So Buc-ee's just doubles down on this premise, you know, by undercutting their neighbors. They kind of guarantee that people will prefer to stop and fuel up at Buc-ee's instead of anywhere else. Now, it hasn't always worked out for them. In Alabama, for example, their fuel prices were so low that they got sued by other nearby gas stations under the Alabama Fair Marketing Act. The case got dismissed though. Okay, so pumps aren't the business then. Now, I took the time to do a little survey experiment myself, and this is what I found. Now, that kind of leads us to our second clue. Now remember that study on the average gas station stop being like 3.5 minutes? I wonder what that number is for Buc-ee's. And let's just find out. So this was a 27-minute drone flight, and we just picked a few random cars for our experiment and timed how long the car stayed based on when the car first parked and when the car left. Many of these cars were parked here for the entire 27 minutes. I'll show you the results of these experiments in a moment. Now, we've already established that, that in a regular gas station, restrooms are kind of a Russian roulette. Gas revenue doesn't really matter too much. And most of the profits are in the convenience store. And the convenience store itself just gives us the third clue, especially if you compare Buc-ee's to any other gas station. And then Buc-ee's just doubled down on this model with guaranteed award-winning restrooms that force you to walk to the entire store by pretty much ignoring margins on gas. And 3, by maximizing profits on the store. That means fresh food prepared on site way beyond gas station hot dogs. You have swag that you can't find anywhere else, Buc-ee's branded jerky and candy, and literally a third of the store just dedicated to merch. But none of this would work. Nobody would buy your merch unless people actually loved your brand. And the most important thing that Buc-ee's has created is precisely a brand.
So we're actually on our way to Galveston, and we always try to make this one of the stops on the way.
So not your first time at Buc-ee's?
Absolutely not.
There's so many options to choose from. The food is good, restrooms are clean.
They have really good sandwiches.
The brisket sandwich for mine.
Like it has everything we need, like even like stuff that probably we wouldn't even know we needed.
How much brand loyalty do you have for your local gas station? Would you wear, I don't know, a Shell t-shirt? But we can't deny that Buc-ee's brand is inevitably tied to the size of the store. And this obsession with breaking records is actually part of their strategy. This Luling location was the first Buc-ee's 2.0, the first travel center store. But the record for the largest one then moved to New Braunfels, and then to Tennessee, and then back to here after an expansion. And every single time, it's free press. They also have the longest car wash in the world, or they claim to have it. But I absolutely believe them, because who else is going to invest so much money in these things? The stores are very much like an amusement park. They've even been called the Disney of gas stations. And just like Disney, they're very careful to deliver on that experience every step of the way. Friendly staff, Buc-ee's walks around and takes pics with children, fully stocked shelves, fully stocked fridges, Buc-ee's sauce and Buc-ee's plush toys and clothing and Buc-ee's teas, Buc-ee's pajamas, and even Buc-ee's swimsuits. A new Buc-ee's creates about 200 new jobs, and most of them make at least 3 times the federal minimum wage. And you start to see why a town would want a Buc-ee's on their turf. Buc-ee's also tends to pick locations along major interstate highways, expecting to convince 10 to 15,000 drivers per day to stop by, with an 80% of them coming from over 200 miles away, according to the mayor, Rustin.
The reason I picked this spot is because it's a great location with 100,000 cars a day going by.
Monroe County in Georgia, which is pushing to get a Buc-ee's of its own, estimated about $30 million of revenue for a store. That's sales taxes, and if this follows the trend, that's jobs for 200 more people. That's $40 million in construction, and it's hard to ignore that kind of money for small towns along major highways.
It's a great feeling. As you saw when we walked in the parking lot, customers came up and said, "Thank you for opening this store. We're so excited about it."
In Kansas and in Harrison County, Mississippi, the city helped fund the expansion of the interchange needed for the Buc-ee's to set up shop. So Buc-ee's is a magnet to turn these small towns into destinations, with nearby stores also reporting a rise in customers from just spillover Buc-ee's traffic. Not all towns are so keen to have a Buc-ee's. Who can hate on a Buc-ee's? In Aplin, North Carolina, people who lived near the proposed location fought long and hard to block the Buc-ee's. They even came up with this angry arch enemy to the beloved beaver. And in another town just 6 miles away, didn't hesitate to take the opportunity themselves, and they approved the Buc-ee's in 2024. A lot of the things that Buc-ee's does are obvious, like having walls of candy or clean bathrooms, but build it and they will come is usually not a great financial strategy. Buc-ee's built a brand that broke a lot of rules because they got the fundamentals right. They understood the pain points of road trips, and they turned them into joys. So back to my little experiment, the average car I measured stayed in Buc-ee's for over 20 minutes. Some stayed for over 27 minutes, but that's all my drone battery lasted. How's that against your 3.5 minute average? Now, if you enjoyed this video, you should watch my man John's episode on this hidden gas station pizza empire that I'm sure you've not heard about, but I did happen to see in Texas. Also, don't forget to download our report on the economics of gas stations and other popular industries. Links here and QR code here. Catch you in the next one.